So hello and welcome to Limitless You Talk with me, Katie, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Gemma Lawrenson, who works for Golden Charter Funeral Plans, so I know professionally, but I've also got to know personally by sharing my journey, sharing my own podcast, posts on social media and things like that. And me and Gemma have got to talking recently about mental health, what it means to us, well-being, how important it is to both of us as women and people with experience with it. So I hope that sums up quite quite simply.
Yeah, that was great.
And I think before we get into conversation, Gemma, just like, who is Gemma? To put it in context, like, who are you? How we're going to set this up for what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I would say, I think who am I is always a difficult question to answer because
love asking.
You're very rarely, like, I don't know, I think probably that self-aware. So you know who you are, like, I'm a mum, I'm a wife, I think I'm quite a loyal friend. Well, I know I'm a loyal friend, otherwise I'd like supportive sister, I think I'm hardworking. But I don't know if that's just what I do as opposed to who I am. But yeah, it kind of sums me up. Mum, first and foremost. I just want to be a good role model for my son. So,
yeah. Nice and short and brief. And obviously I'm biased. I'm going to say that you're all of those things. I've seen it firsthand with the experiences and the conversation things that we've shared, especially in the last few months specifically. And the reason why we're having this conversation is because you've shared with me your experiences of mental health within your family, poor mental health in particular. And I am not going to share that. This is your time to share that, and it's a very inspirational, even though difficult story, and it involves your sister Megan.
Yeah.
So your experience with mental health and poor mental health.
Yeah. So I'd just like to start just by saying I've got Megan's permission to talk about this.
You do indeed, yeah.
And actually she's like, am I allowed to say a wee bit in it? So I've got a wee couple of notes from her as well.
Excellent.
So I guess our story probably started when Megan was 22. I was 32. I had just had my baby. My wee boy was 3 months old, so I was off maternity leave. And Megan presented herself to me just very disorientated, very confused, just needing help. So basically brought her to my house, and I very quickly seen that there was something wrong. I'd asked her, she stayed with me for about a week. I'd asked her specifically if she'd taken any drugs, and she hadn't. She'd never had any much history of that, but I could not understand what else it could have been. She presented she was scared of everything. She was scared of my husband. She was scared of my wee boy, who was only 3 months. So she had a fit, and I called 111, not knowing anything about it, and they let me know she needs to get to A&E instantly. So took her up to A&E, and that's pretty much where it started. So she was in the Queen Elizabeth, what's it called now?
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth used to be called the Southern General, the big hospital in Glasgow. For anyone that doesn't know, for anyone that doesn't know it.
Yeah, so she was there, and she was there for 2 weeks, and it became apparent, and they very quickly told me this was like a mental health issue, but they didn't know what it was. She would, her symptoms were quite sad, very sad to see, and she was confused. She would like hit her head off the end of the bed, try to get the worms out her head.
Yeah.
And she would say her beliefs were just wearing what we would class as normal beliefs and things like that. So she tried to hurt herself quite badly in there. So she was on suicide watch and things like that. But the hospital didn't know what it was. First of all, they were saying, that it's just behavioural, but then depending on who the nurse was that was there,
Yeah.
Illness is mental health or whatever. So they basically that she got moved to Gartnavel Royal Hospital, and they said she was experiencing first episode psychosis. And she was in there for a period of 8 months in total, so it was a long period of time. So every single day in my maternity leave, I was up at the hospital. So then that had an effect on my own mental health to an extent. So what transpired is she had taken drugs. She'd taken, I think it was the equivalent. It was something called a Tizolam, so it was a legal high at the time. So you could buy this off the internet. And she paid for it through PayPal and things like that. It's just crazy what you're allowed, what
can do.
But it was the equivalent of like 400 milligrams of diazepam, so it was a huge amount of drugs she'd had. So that basically triggered psychosis in her. But because it triggered her so bad, she couldn't come back from, like, she couldn't really come back from it, if you will. So in the 8 months that she was in Gartnavel, it got a little bit easier for me in a way, because I could only see her for an hour in the morning and an hour at night. So I was able to spend some more time with Jude and things like that. But it was just the first step into this world that I just had no clue about, Katie. Like, I feel that I was so naive before and kind of just shut off from it, and it's not until you experience it you're like, oh my goodness, like, this is just, it's just something that you can't ever imagine ever.
It would be the last thing you think about. I think it's important to take note right now that for Megan allowing us to share some of her utmost struggles, and for you, you know, sitting here so calmly, as I'm sure it's not, but you know, sharing it in a safe space where you feel comfortable. And I think it's important to say thank you to both of you first and foremost for that. And as a new mum, hormones probably all over the place, balancing things, but being big sister, that's a lot of hats that you had to carry. And I suppose, in, you know, thinking of how we wanted to make this conversation and relate well-being and mental health, you know, again, not knowing the first idea about mental, none of us do when things are sort of happening until such a time that we do learn about it. How have you, through all of the struggles as a family and yourself in particular, as a brand new mum at the time, you know, wife, sister, all of the hats having to carry, how have you dealt with it? Instead of focusing on the struggles, I suppose, you know, how have you dealt with it? How have you managed to get it so you're then able to be sister, mum, wife, friend that you are?
So I would say very quickly my hat switched from big sister to carer, like instantly, because I had to be her named person. I had to go to all the ward rounds. That first 8 months, that was just the first 8 months. She's been in every single year since then, and she's now in an amazing place in a unit called SAMH, so mental health charity. So she lives there and they look after her and everything. So she's in a good place now, which I'm sure we'll get to later on. But every single year she was in hospital for like 8 months, 6 months, 3 months, whatever. So it's been very much a roller coaster. So I'm still going through it, I would say, probably. But my hat had to change from sister to carer. Sometimes I dealt with it, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I would just cry for every reason and no reason at the same time. I just didn't understand it. I felt that I was grieving for her when she's still here. That makes sense.
For the person that you recognised that now you didn't almost. In that way.
And I went to see a counsellor, and they said a great thing to me. It's like, Gemma, you're grieving for a life that you believe she wants.
Wow.
You're not grieving for, but she's not grieving for that life because she doesn't want that life. She doesn't want to get married and have a job and stuff like that. She's comfortable with where she is. And I was like, right, okay, I'm making myself in more pain.
You're taking on the personal that. Yeah.
So counselling definitely helped me. Being able to talk to my friends and my husband, and so I've got a bigger sister as well. It was really difficult for my mum and my big sister because Megan had delusions about them. So it was so hard. So I was pretty much the main Megan's only point of contact. So that was quite difficult, but 100% like understands like the difficulties my mum and my big sister went through with her. Megan didn't have that with me, so easier for me in a way. I see myself having the better relationship in the situation. So taking a step back, focusing on myself, I read a book by a guy called Hal Elrod, and it's like The Miracle Morning, it's called. But have you heard of it?
Yeah, I have heard about it. Very good book. Highly recommend it. Yeah, massively.
So it's called, you need to do the savers. So S is for silence, A's affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading and scribing. Now, I didn't do all of them. Like, I'm not an avid exerciser. But I would take time out in the morning just to try and like calm my thoughts. I would try and visualize Megan being in a better place, and that just set me up for the day. Like, okay, this can get better. Affirmations, just reading a book, not about mental health or researching or anything like that, but just to take me away for a wee bit. And then scribing, so just journaling and trying to get my thoughts down on paper kind of just cleared my head. So I would say that was probably a big thing for me, and just taking that time out.
I think that's nicely what I wanted to say next, was like, by you reading that book, for example, and learning those tools, do you think it helped you both personally and in a professional sense of obviously going back to work as a new mum as well?
Yeah. So going back to work was difficult because I didn't know whether it was New York or New Year, Katie. I don't know how I got through my work at that time. Like I must have done, because I done all my appraisals and done everything. And everything was fine, but I must have just like blocked off everything that was happening when I went into work. But I couldn't tell you what work I'd done that time. But I think it probably just taking that time out probably did get me into some kind of zone of working. And obviously my wee boy, I could kind of channel my energy into him.
Dirty nappies. Dirty nappy. Being typical mum stuff. And coming full circle, obviously amazing to hear where Megan is currently, being looked after, and the way, obviously, my perception, if I put my coaching hat on when we're having this conversation, is the more you've learned about it and understand it, you're very much more relaxed about it, because there is a higher level of understanding.
Yeah, so, and that's actually quite interesting, because one of the things Megan, when I asked her about the podcast, she gave me some wee things that she wanted to get across. One was research other people's experiences, so that the family can understand what she's going through. But I would say, sorry Katie, what was your original question again?
So just with everything gone through and how you've been personally and professionally.
Oh yeah, just to know how to make a good place. Sorry, so now after 8 years, she's now no longer got first episode psychosis. So she's now got schizophrenia. So that's her official diagnosis, because basically psychosis, you can have it up to a period of 2 years, but after that, then it's long term for the rest of your life. So it's schizophrenia. So I think I came to the realisation that I had to manage this and manage my own feelings about it, because it's not going anywhere. We just need to be able to manage it better and manage that relationship, and know that it's maybe changed a little bit, but I can still be there for her as big sister, and just not care her all the time, because she has been looked after.
So you can go back to you think the first hat then you want to be his sister before being carer?
Oh, I would love to. I
Yeah.
would love to. And we are getting back there because, as I say, Sam H is an amazing charity.
Yeah,
They
they
look
are.
after her, and like they're getting her like getting in doing gardening, doing volunteering and stuff like that.
Wow.
It's just not somewhere that I could have envisaged her being even like 4 years ago. So
Yeah.
she it's definitely a positive, and I'm not going to say the end because she's still going through it, but she's in a much more positive place, and I
Yeah.
can then step back a little bit.
I think it's nice for us to focus on that, you know,
Yeah.
because again, Megan, you've been able to take the steps to do that. I mean, what else, you know, giving Megan this platform as well, even though she's not here having the conversation with us, you know, about what it's taught her or about
Yeah.
her experience from her own words, I suppose.
Yeah. So I would say it took a very long time for Megan to, and that's part of the diagnosis and mental health. She couldn't see she was unwell for a long time. But when I asked her if I could do this, she just said, look, a couple of things she said is suicide or suicidal thoughts are okay to have them.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to ask for help when you need it. She's like, not, don't self-medicate because I think that's what she was trying to do. I don't think she was trying to seek out drugs to
No.
only try to help herself, which is sad. She said she wants families to do research and understand what to do in a crisis. Give reassurance to your loved one that hallucinations and delusions, although they're real in the moment, they're not. They're
Not reality.
Not reality, exactly. And then she just says, be patient. Like the family, so I don't know if that was a dig at me to be more patient or not.
Listen, if she's getting it in any sort of way, then we'll go for it. You know, I think I would just like to say, you know, thank you to Megan.
Yeah.
Because I would never have had an understanding of that side or a diagnosis of a different type of mental health, mental illness. And I know Megan will listen to this back. Yeah, we're going to share it with her. And, you know, just, Megan, you're not alone in how you feel. You know, whatever level of experience anyone has with mental health, knowing you're not alone, knowing to be patient. But I think if I was to give Megan a message, just kind of sitting here talking out loud, would be I hope she can give herself credit. You know, she can take time, and you can take time, Megan, to really give yourself huge credit for perseverance, for patience.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure it's not been easy at times, and yeah, as I said, the positives out of your journey and her experience with it, that would be, you know, something for her to maybe think about, for you to think about, Megan, hopefully. And obviously all the lowest moments, right? So I'm sure there's been plenty for you all as a family, individually. And everything that it's taught you and the lessons that you've all learned.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sort of circle back to heading into the future for you all?
So I think I just always come back to I've still got her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how difficult it's been, because it has been really shit sometimes. But I've still got her here, and I would go through that 10 times rather than not have her here. So it has been it's been eye-opening for me, and it's given me a lesson that I can then take in as a mum, and because I'm able to understand and spot behaviours and things like that now that I don't think I would have been able to before. And I've got and not a story that I would share without Meg's permission to Jude, but I can let him understand the dangers of certain things, and by having my own experience of it. So I'm kind of grateful for that, but more than anything, I'm just grateful that she's still here, Katie, because sometimes, some days when I wouldn't have.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't her getting to 30 years old, so.
I think putting it in context of you working in the funeral profession, all okay, you're working in, prepaid, pre-need sector, but coming to the likes and spending time with us and the many funeral directors that you spend time with, your perspective and your mind must subconsciously at times wander, and it can't be helped. I mean, we work in an industry that's very sensitive. So it must make how you say that and how you think about, Megan still being with us, gardening and volunteering and things like that. Just that's more powerful and precious than anything. And I suppose consider, anyone that's in a similar position, not exactly the same experience, but anyone that is in like your position of, having to provide more support, or having to put different hats on, more of a caregiver hat than a family member or a friend, what would your advice be? Because obviously you are in a better position than anyone to give some advice and some message on that, but to anyone that just needs a bit of a pick me up when, as you say, when it is a much more shitter time. If you were to speak to anyone, what would you say?
Well, probably start by saying they never asked for this. They've not went in deliberately to hurt you. So I've been hurt a lot through the years, but she never once, it wasn't her, it was the illness. And being able to separate that, the person to the illness, is something you should do, because you still love that person and you're able to support them. Get support for yourself, because it's a hard road to go down. But also be able to let the reins go. And I tried to micromanage Megan in her life when she was out of hospital, and make sure she didn't do anything wrong and stuff. And actually, all she needed me to do was be there to listen to her. She didn't need me for all this other stuff. The mental health professionals were there to help with all that. So I think just being there for her as someone to listen and that cares for her first and foremost, and let go with her way. Like, you can't rush people to get better. Like, you can't.
Using Megan's words, be patient.
Yeah, exactly. And I would 100% do things differently if I could go back, but I can't. So there's no point in dwelling on it. I can only try and support her now and be there for her more now, in a more patient way. But at the same time, I don't think you can prepare anyone from it. So however you get through it, as long as you both get through it, then that's the main thing.
Do you feel like you've got better at certain things because of it? Like listening, for example, like you mentioned there, but do you feel like you've got better at things for yourself?
Yeah. It's like, I wouldn't even take time out for myself before, but this has forced me to have to.
Yeah.
So that's really good. It's given me more kind of self-awareness, and just being kind, because you don't know what anyone else is going through. Like, I don't even know, as much as I probably bleated on about it at the time, but I don't know how many people in the workplace actually knew what I was going through. Or maybe bleat on about it to my friends or whatever, and I was like, well, they don't know what I'm going through, so how can I be annoyed at them for having a go at me just because I'm going through something quite difficult? So yeah, it's a hard one, but just taking the time out for yourself is as well, and being there for them when you can.
Yeah, I think, speaking about it and raising some awareness, I know that's very important to you. And I want you to be able to, Megan, I know you'll be listening to this, so again, this question's actually for both of you, right? But obviously, Gemma, you can answer it now, and I'll look forward to hearing Megan's answers. But what do you feel are your superpowers? Obviously, see from all your experience and things, what do you feel? You can have more than one, there's no limit, but what do you feel, Gemma, are your superpowers?
I would say I'm probably naturally quite an empathetic person, but I think that being that empathetic person, I think that's really helped me over the last 8 years, because I was able to couldn't put myself in Megan's shoes. I couldn't. I wouldn't take that away from her. Like I wouldn't do that. I think that would be rude to say, but I could appreciate what she was going through, and I don't think a lot of people could. I think just see the behaviour, and that would be it, cut off. But I couldn't do that. I think I try to just to understand how others are feeling. Sometimes to a fault, I think I take on a lot of other people's problems rather than this. But I think it's a good thing, and especially in this line of work as well. I think it's good to be empathetic and just understanding. Like even at a basic level, like when you guys are so busy and you maybe just dealt with like a family or something, well, just understanding that and giving you the space when you need it and things. So, yeah, I would say empathy.
I think that's I'm even thinking like that's such an underrated superpower. You've even got me thinking, and it's interesting to hear Megan's. Really look forward to listening to it. And again, just thank you to both of you. Thank you to you, Gemma, for sharing with me outside of this, and again, this space is to raise awareness that mental health is all different forms, but we all get affected differently, families and things like that. But it's who we choose to be getting through it, and the determination of getting through it. And to Megan, pride, powerful, inspirational, just everything. Keep doing what you're doing, Megan, because you're doing amazing, and you just take it one day and be patient with yourself. I think speaking our own words. Speaking our own words. So Gemma, thank you very much for joining me. This has been amazing, and Megan, thank you very much for sharing and allowing me and Gemma to have a conversation about it. Thank you.
I hope I've done her justice. I don't know if I have, but she, as you say, thanking her, like she's given me the permission to talk.
Yeah. I give her full permission to tell us exactly what she thinks.
She will.
Thanks, Gemma.
Thanks, Katie.